15.8 is the reciprocal trigonometric functions. I can evaluate reciprocal trigonometric functions, and I can graph reciprocal trig functions. Big ideas here. Cosine, sine, and tangent have reciprocals. Cosine and secant are reciprocals. Sine and cosecant are reciprocals. And tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. So tangent and cotangent make sense. Cosine and secant go together, and sine and cosecant go together. Okay. I know it seems weird that it's not sine and cosine, secant and cosecant, and I don't know why they named them this way. There's probably a reason, but just remember that sine goes with cosecant and cosine goes with secant. There's only one co in each pair, and they had to make it difficult and change them up on you. Reciprocal trig functions can be evaluated using what we know about sine, cosine, and tangent. The graphs of reciprocal trig functions have asymptotes where the denominators equal 0. So anytime like sine equals 0, cosecant is going to have a reciprocal. We can't divide by 0. Take note on page 883 for cosecant, secant, and cotangent. The cosecant, which we write as CSC, the secant, which is SEC, and cotangent, COT, functions are defined using reciprocals. Their domains do not include the real numbers 0 that make the denominators 0. So we're going to find values geometrically here. I'm going to move that back down where it should go. Sorry. Finding values geometrically, what are the exact values here of cotangent of negative 5 pi over 6 and cosecant of pi over 6? We're not going to use a calculator here. We're going to find the exact values. So I'm going to do cotangent first. And remember, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. And tangent is y over x, or sine over cosine. So, we're going to do this using our unit circle. I need to cut it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 0. Pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, or pi over 3, 3 pi over 6, or pi over 2, 4 pi over 6, or 2 pi over 3, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, or just pi, okay? But we don't want positives, so it works the same way in the negative direction. I have negative pi over 6, negative 2 pi over 6, or negative pi over 3, negative 3 pi over 6, negative 4 pi over 6, negative 5 pi over 6, which is the same as 7 pi over 6 if we were going positive. So this one right here is the one that I want. So I draw in my triangle. Pi over 6 means it's a 30, 60, 90 degrees. My short side is a half. My long side is square root of 3 over 2. Here in the third quadrant for this point, they're both negative. So, if tangent is y over x, cotangent is x over y. So I take my x, negative square root of 3 over 2, divided by negative 1/2 for my y, and now I simplify. When I divide complex fractions, I multiply by the reciprocal. 2's cancel, negatives cancel. So cotangent of negative 5 pi over 6 is going to be the square root of 3. Now, for cosecant of pi over 6, I'm going to use the same circle here because they're split into 6. Pi over 6 is right here. Again, short side, long side. Here they're both positive in the first quadrant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. I should have written, this is 1 over tangent, so those flop. Okay. Sine is our y value. So cosecant of pi over 6 is the same as 1 over y. And here, my y value is a half. So 1 divided by a half is going to give me 2. So cosecant of pi over 6 is 2. The other thing we could have done, guys, is taken our sine and then taken the reciprocal of it too, instead of just setting up that fraction. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is make my circle. And I'm going to go ahead and split it up into thirds. So 1, 2, 3. I have 0, pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3, and 6 pi over 3, or 2 pi. Okay, I want 1 pi over 3, so I'm going to drop down right here. Because it's over 3, I'm going to have a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. Short side is a half, long side is square root of 3 over 2. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so this is actually 1 over sine of pi over 3. So, sine is y, so I'm going to have 1 over y. Y value here is square root of 3 over 2. Multiply by a reciprocal, so times 2 over square root of 3. And I'm going to get 2 over square root of 3. We can't leave that, guys. We rationalize our denominator. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. I multiply by square root of 3 because that gives me just a 3 on the bottom. And in the top, I have 2 square roots of 3 over 3. So, cosecant of pi over 3 is 1 over y, which is 2 square roots of 3 over 3. New circle here for cotangent. And I need to split it up into fourths. So 1, 2, 3 lines, 4 lines. 0, pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is the same as pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, which is the same as just pi, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, and 8 pi over 4, which again is just 2 pi. And this is 3 pi over 2. I want to go negative 5/4. So I go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5 pi over 4. So the point that I'm looking for is this one right here. Drop down to the x-axis always. Since it's over 4, we know that they're 45, 45, 90 degrees. So square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2 are the sides of my triangle. But remember, our x here is negative because we went to the left of the origin. So cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. And tangent is y over x, so cotangent is x over y. Not really going to matter here because at 45 degrees or pi over 4, tangent and cotangent are 1 or negative 1. So here our x is negative square root of 2 over 2, and our y is square root of 2 over 2. So again, to get rid of our denominator, we multiply by the reciprocal, reduce what we can, and all we're left with is negative 1. So cotangent of negative 5 pi over 4 equals -1. Secant at 3 pi here. I have pi divided by just 1, so we just divide it once. Draw one circle. I have 0, I have 1 pi, I have 2 pi, I have 3 pi. 1, 2, 3 pi. Secant is 1 over cosine. Secant is the reciprocal cosine. Cosine is x. So right now, I'm going to have 1 over x at 3 pi. So my x value here is -1. So I get 1 over -1, which is just -1. So secant of 3 pi is -1. Step 2 is finding the values with the calculator. What is the decimal value of each expression? Use the radian mode on your calculator and round to the nearest thousandth. So we always use radians unless they have a degree drawn in. So since there's no degree there, we know it has to be in radians. So make sure your calculator's in radians. Remember that secant is 1 over cosine of 2. So take 1 divided by cosine 2, close your parentheses, and we should get -2.403 thousandth, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Cotangent is 1 over tangent of 10. So, and your sine, cosine, and tangent are next to your pi keys, which are just down kitty corner from the clear. So, 1 divided by tangent of 10 should give us 1.542. And cosecant is 1 over sine of 35 degrees. So either make sure you switch your calculator to degrees here or use the little degree symbol above data below delete. So 1 divided by sine of 35 degrees, and I get 1.743. Okay, here we know we had to switch to degrees because they have the degree symbol. Cotangent of pi is 1 over tangent of pi. 1 divided by tangent pi. Make sure you switch back to radians. I did not. Gives me a division by 0 error, because tangent of pi degrees is 0. So here it is undefined. Okay. Division by 0 error. Okay. Same thing here. Cotangent is 1 over tangent of 13. Again, make sure you're in radians. 1 divided by tangent of 13. It's approximately 2.160. Cosecant is 1 over sine of 6.5. 1 divided by sine 6.5. 4.649. Secant is in degrees here, so 1 over cosine of 15 degrees. 1 divided by cosine 15 degrees. Either switch your calculator or use the little degree symbol, and we should get 1.035. Secant is 1 over cosine of 3 pi over 2. Cosine of 3 pi over 2, guys, is here. Our x value is 0. So it should give us a division by 0. Okay, 1 divided by cosine of 3 pi divided by 2. Close your parenthesis. Yeah, division by 0. So this is undefined. And that is all for the first video here on section 13.8.